The Nation was one of the fan favorites to qualify into the Ascension Challenger League for NA Valorant. They bolstered a star-studded roster with Wardell and NACS stars Brax and Stewie, dubbed as Stewie's return to competitive after he took an indefinite break from CS. This would inevitably mean huge expectations for them from the community. And unfortunately, amidst a little bit of drama and somewhat unfair circumstances surrounding available VODs,
all of your games are streamed. All of them.
They were knocked out both the first open qualifier and subsequent last chance qualifier. Let's take a look at some key rounds in their open qualifier loss to Dark Ratio to try and find out what might have gone wrong when they were mere rounds away from qualifying.
Can't do anything. Dark Ratio have made it to Challengers.
In this first game on Icebox, they pulled out a strong 8-4 defensive half, which is about what you'd expect given their no duelist, double sentinel, double initiator, and Viper comp.
It's Rossy, he knows where he's coming from, and he's got the idea. Around this single Radiant box is what he's got to play with.
Dark Ratio clawed back to be within a round. A key round at 9-8 shows how the Nation needed to play more of their offensive rounds. They pressured mid with 3 members, which was enough to get an opening kill and open up the timing for a double lurk up B long. Rather than having solo lurkers in a 4-1 or a 3-1-1 split, the rounds which showed the most promise were 3-2 splits to control mid. Their team comp's strength lies in the post plant, but has difficulty forcing control without a space creating duelist. Icebox mid also doesn't really require any type of duelist kit to take effectively. Many duels are long and slow compared to forcing main areas around the sites, which are definitely better for duelist kits. In their pistol round, they also do a 2-3 split, which effectively rotates A players off for a free plant. Wardell was just a bit too greedy with his wall and didn't use it to secure plant. Full 5 takes looked somewhat alright, but reduced the game to individual play. At 10-8, they end up in another 2-3 split, walking up tube with a huge opportunity to kill KJ. She gets tagged down all the way to 9 HP, but they rush to chase her and a kitchen crossfire ends up in a 3-0 for Dark Ratio, closing the door on the round. The opportunity was created again from the 2-3 split, but they were a bit too hasty with the chase down, when they could have taken the damage and instead used the space their long B players had already secured. The next couple rounds really showcased the strength of the Nation's comp, as they're able to get the bomb down both rounds. Sage and Viper's utility delay the start of the retakes, and Sova with KJ Molly's stall when Dark Ratio wants to tap the bomb.
A little bit easier to play if you are on the side of Dark Ratio, but these shock darts might just do the trick as Brax still taking the peek, still a flank in as well from TIGG. Someone needs to fight, and that's all she wrote. Trick does what he can.
The Nation loses handle of the game when they're on game point at 12-10. With no mid control at all, an attempt to funnel through B long is met with a stacked site because Viper's pit was used on A. They weren't ever able to recover and lose the map in overtime, 14-12.
Clearing it all on his own, looking for the ace. No Stewie, no in the 1v3. Drone going for the defuse. The lineup not there.
Defenders win.
In the second game on Bind, the Nation starts strong on defense with an 8-4 half. They win many rounds off of fighting well together for transitional areas, like B long and A short. TIGG has this awesome round where he holds shower by himself on a half buy and gets 3.
There it goes.
The Nation had a lot of great variations for fighting B long and maintaining hookah control together. Dark Ratio barely had any success on B as a result. On round 3, long control is maintained by Brax and Rossy, and they can fall back to Octagon and fight enemies dropping out of hookah together. On round 5, Wardell fights the off-angle octagon while Rossy gets the deeper first angle. On round 9, Rossy and Brax get info long and drop Viper's Pit to block both hookah and long chokes. This was unfortunately not a good play as Dark Ratio are on save guns. The Viper ult reduces angles to shorter ones, and there are many more vision holes where Dark Ratio can sneak in. On round 10, Rossy plays close to flash while Brax holds the long angle to take contact and kill utility. The biggest factor in this defensive half, however, is how Wardell was enabled on Raze to move back and forth between sites. He fought for a different area every single round. Dark Ratio could never find consistent control anywhere on the map, and were always in fear of a new aggressive setup thrown on them. When sides swapped, it was apparent that Dark Ratio was not immediately comfortable with controlling neutral areas and using them to their advantage. Credit should be given to the Nation's default, which methodically pressured Dark Ratio to be more disjointed in their neutral control. In round 17, Dark Ratio now know that they can't let them get long and hookah control for free. They actually win this eco by pressuring deep long, then holding hookah control with Brim Util, while Trick forces the Nation to take duels for octagon control.
15 seconds left. These players have to commit to B. Now it's a 1v1 with a plant down. A body shot is all that drone needs.
In round 18, Dark Ratio still know that they need neutral control, so they fight outside of hookah. They manage to successfully push them out of B short, but use the control of that incorrectly. Instead of playing around that control for a possible flank or fast retake with hookah pressure, they both jump back onto site and are beat there by Wardell and Rossy running up long. Dark Ratio are contesting neutral control fine, but can't use it consistently to close out rounds. In round 22, Drone gets caught holding deep A short by himself. Down 10 to 12, Dark Ratio finally solve the puzzle and figure out what they need to do on defense, but unfortunately, it's a bit too late. The Nation are allowed to walk all the way up short, but Dark Ratio ensure that they have at least shower control, and they fast retake with that shower control, earning them 11.
2, and it still keeps going. A's with 3, keeping Dark Ratio in the game.
Now down 11 to 12, they again allow the Nation up short A, but instead of shower's control, use Will's flank as the opening for the fast retake. It's honestly a great opportunity for Dark Ratio, but Drone loses a key duel to Stewie in showers, just a bit too early for the rest of Dark Ratio to capitalize. A lot of times rounds boil down to those small duels and mistimed fights, rather than strategical choices. And as a result, the Nation take map 2.
Not able to get it. A 1v3. Trick trying to take this one back. Trying to finish this now. But the Nation stay alive and they push it to a map.
The decider match for this series went to Fracture. The Nation started the game on offense and actually went up 4-0. They work off of uncontested B-side control 3 rounds in a row. They're able to get up close from arcade with double initiator utility, while B main is completely uncontested and held by Brax. It's usually a disaster scenario for B anchors when arcade and B main are taken fully without resistance. The playable angles and spots for a B anchor become very limited. This is only exacerbated by the double initiator comp plus Raze as their entry. You can see from these 3 minimap shots how Dark Ratio is disjointed and has no real play in any of these rounds to actually fight for the site. On round 4, Dark Ratio completely play sites, and the Nation are able to take Dish and A main control uncontested. The round is actually pretty close due to some misplays from the Nation and hero plays from Dark Ratio, but the story so far is pretty much the same. The Nation is largely uncontested for map control and gets too close to site with way too much utility left to take it. At 4-0, however, Dark Ratio finally realized this and adjusted their plan. They fight aggressively for both A main and B main control. They not only get the kill on TIGG and spawn, but are able to push under from B main to contest arcade control as well. This finally gets them their first round win. It's the realization that they need to contest earlier and with purpose that changes the flow of this game. Next round, they go for an arcade and dish side crunch, and again prevent the Nation from getting too close and feeling comfortable with their site executions. This leads to a dropped bomb and eventually their second round. Now this continues to happen again in round 7 where they fight for A main with breach ult. Again in round 8 and 9 with deep brim utility thrown in at A main. It happens again in round 10 where Ainge peeks B main by himself and Brax gets arcade pinched 4v1. And it happens again in round 11 where we see Dark Ratio contest arcade and tower with Trick flashing out heaven and a double tower setup. Although the half still ended 8-4 for the Nation, Dark Ratio communicated that they weren't scared to fight and made the Nation feel uncomfortable and frantic in many of those rounds. The Nation is up, but no longer sitting comfortable in the driver's seat. The Nation rose up to many of these aggressive plays from Dark Ratio and started to intelligently retake control on later timings to avoid the initial utility dumps. This put Dark Ratio in awkward aggressive spots without key utility like breach stun. But surprisingly, with the turn of the half, it seemed like the Nation copied Dark Ratio's game plan from the first 4 rounds of the map. Now they're the ones that aren't contesting anything and opting for site setups immediately. Dark Ratio has too much space to work with for executes, while the Nation doesn't have enough control or info for smart rotates or flanks. Pistol round, for example, seemed more like a gamble stack to fight B, rather than any informed strategy based on control of neutral areas. The Nation did not come out of the half setting the precedent that they were willing to contest everything and not let Dark Ratio get comfortable spots for site executions. Pistol and Eco were lost, and now on their gun round, they play full retake on B, despite having better guns to fight with. They also didn't account for the KJ ult, which further delayed their retake and gave Dark Ratio even more space to play with, which they definitely capitalized on. Now, playing retake here is not strategically the worst idea, but strategy isn't everything when one team simply feels like they have the reins to do whatever they want, and the other feels cornered and unable to get any real gunfights. This becomes the story of the Nation's defensive half. In round 16, Trick sells a B fake by himself, despite the Nation initially being stacked on A. They have no control of anything and have no idea Trick is alone, nor do they have any idea 3 have walked up A main. Dark Ratio tie the game with this round.
Trick is selling this fake. His footsteps alone have drawn everybody towards this site, and Wardell even as well. And by the time they realize it, it's just way too late.
So good from Trick. If anyone spots him, they...
And it seems nearly impossible, as they're going to actually force these 2 players to commit. Brax.
Dark Ratio continued to take a lot of control silently without utility and weren't scared to just walk up to optimal execution spots.
Cancels out fully still though. Ainge.
Hold on.
Smokes will come out here. Again, this time it's not TIGG. In towards tower. It's going to be Brax in his cage. Springs out.
Although the Nation did have some attempts to contest control late in the map, they weren't able to figure out what to do with that control, and ultimately Dark Ratio closed out the series by being the more adaptable team.
Going in, Zextra with a huge openers. Now it's only one once again. Wardell can't do anything.
It's unfortunate for the Nation's players who really all showed big moments of brilliance. I was personally impressed by TIGG's performance on controller, and it was definitely fun to see Brax and Stu competing again. Hopefully we'll all get to see them compete again in the future.